So I wanted to congratulate everyone on making it to week 7. I can't believe we're finally here. I wanted to thank everyone for participating in all of the discussions that we've had, all of the assignments that we've had. I've truly been able to see the growth that you guys have been developing throughout our time since week 1 to now. I've definitely seen that through your writing skills, through your video, through the way that you've even been emailing me. So a lot of you have truly grown, and it has been such a pleasure to watch that. So I wanted to commend you on that. I also wanted to say good luck, guys, on your journey moving forward outside of this class. You all are so capable. You can do this, and you all are going to make such an impact in the social work field. And I'm just so excited for you all to join and to really make an impact, because we need people like you. So ironically, moving forward this week, we're going to be talking about groups, and we're also going to be talking about ending and transitioning phases. So ending relationships can be very difficult and hard for a client and for yourself as well. They have been on your schedule for the past 8+ weeks, and it will affect you as well. You'll find yourself asking questions that you've been wondering even after they've terminated with you. You know, how are they doing? Are they succeeding? Are they using the skills that you've built with them? The clients at times have looked at you as family because unfortunately some of them don't have a close relationship with their family, and you have been the strong bond for them. So it's extremely difficult to end this relationship. So your client during the ending phase may be actually very angry, very frustrated with you. They may feel abandoned because they've been through so many ups and downs with you, and they fear that they can't do it alone. So all of their anxiety, all of their frustration comes out toward the end. And the best thing that you can do, that I can suggest, is that you actually acknowledge that. So you need to be able to acknowledge the fear, acknowledge the anxiety. So, for example, John, we're closing in on our last 3 sessions. How do you feel about that? Acknowledge that feeling. Go into that feeling with them. Talk about it. Another thing you can do with the client is actually give them their own autonomy toward the end. And if you've been meeting with them every week, maybe try every other week so that they can do that time away from you. They can understand that they have the skill to be away and that they can do it. And then once they feel that they can do it via every other week, then you can move to maybe once a month. Even though that there'll be a last 3 sessions, it's spread out so they feel that they can do it on their own, and they don't feel as anxious or as fearful as they did in the beginning. When you started to mention, hey, John, these are our last 3 sessions, he'll start to feel a lot of anxiety, and you can start to spread out your sessions so that he can see, I can do it on my own. I am capable. I have learned all of the skills. Now I just have to implement them. You also want to remind the client of their strong support system that you've established with them, and you want to be able to discuss their crisis mode. Every client has their own type of crisis mode, so helping them understand what their crisis mode looks like, how to get help if they are in crisis mode, and how they can eventually come back if they should need further future care. So now I want to touch on some ending situations that are not planned. Death of a client, and this can be via natural causes such as hospice. It could be an accident that happened, or it could be intentional such as suicide. Now, death of a client can be extremely hard on a worker, so you need to be you need to really understand yourself during this phase if it ever happens to you. And unfortunately, in our field, it is more common than you would think. So understanding that nothing is our fault. Our client shows us exactly what they want to show us, and we cannot be mind readers. So we cannot blame ourselves if anything should happen. And it is important that if something should happen, that you rely very heavily on your supervisor for support and time away from work, because for some of you, it really will affect you, especially if you have been seeing that client for, let's say, over 6 months, and you find out, unfortunately, that they've committed suicide. You yourself could feel guilt. How did I miss the signs? How did I not know? What could I have done? Is it something that I said is there something that I could have said that made him or she not do it? So there will be a lot of questions that you yourself will pose. So unfortunately, in this field, if it doesn't happen to you, it will happen to a coworker that you know. And all I ask is that if it does happen to you, you rely on support of your coworkers, friends, and family. And if it does happen to a coworker, you be there as that support system for them, because it is a really difficult situation to go through, especially because it's not a normal ending transition phase. So moving on to groups. Now, some of you are going to love group practice and others of you are really going to hate group practice. It's not for everyone. So I encourage all of you during your internships to, if you're able to, at least experience a group, sit, observe, felicitate, co-felicitate if you're able to do so, because it's really worth the experience and understanding group dynamics. So the point of a group is for people who share a similar target problem to come together and discuss common goals that they have to solve this problem. So most often in the group, it's our job to assist others in their own thinking. So we often assist peers in the group to answer others' questions. So for example, if I'm doing a drug and alcohol group and I pose a question like, how does it feel to be in this cycle? One person may answer, and then I will let another person follow up corresponding to that answer. So I could say, John, thank you for that response. Karen, how do you feel about that response? To let them group together and help them understand each other. It works better if the peers themselves continue to talk to each other, because if you just sit there and lecture for 45 minutes of the group, you're not going to get much participation, and most people most likely won't be coming back to you. So you really want to be able to engage them. So when one person speaks, you actually want to follow up right after that with someone else coming in and expressing how they feel similar to that person or why they feel differently. That actually helps the cohesiveness of the group develop and help them feel together with that common goal and feel that they're not alone and that it's capable to solve this problem. Now, in groups, you always want to make sure that you establish, first and foremost, confidentiality, that understanding that whatever you talk about in the group won't be shared outside of the group, and that what everyone else shares, that they cannot take their personal information outside of the group as well. You also want to set boundaries as well, helping the group understand the rules, that if at any time it gets out of hand, the group will stop immediately. That if at any time anyone feels uncomfortable, they're more than willing to come to you privately. You also want to make sure that you're establishing to stay away from taboo areas such as sex, religion, politics, because when you get on topics like that, you're going to get a lot of opinions, and you're going to get people who are very angry and very biased about their opinion, and it's going to stray away from your group topic, and you're not going to really be able to circle them back because they're going to be talking about the taboo areas. So there are certain types of people in your group that you are absolutely going to encounter. So for example, you are going to have the over talker in group. That is someone who speaks absolutely every time you finish a sentence. That is someone who speaks after everyone else finishes a sentence. So the best thing that you can do for that is actually confront them in public in the middle of the group, and do it obviously in a therapeutic way, such as, John, I appreciate your willingness to share, but let's give others a chance to express themselves as well. Right then and there, you are setting a front that you are in control of the group, that person is not in control of the group, that others understand where you're coming from, that you are not allowing him to take control of the group. So you really need to make sure that you confront it in public so that the group understands. If it continues after you publicly confront, then what you want to do is pull that person aside privately and talk to them, because maybe group is not the proper place for them. If they have a lot of feelings that they want to talk about and they feel like they're not able to share, then individual therapy is a way to go for that person, because they're going to have a lot more to share than what is going to be capable in group therapy. Another thing that you're going to have in group is you're going to have that person who is extremely hopeless. You're going to have that person that everything you say or everything someone else says, it's pointless. They've been there, they've done that, They've tried that. It hasn't worked. Everything sucks. Their life sucks. They don't even know why they're in group. You're going to encounter people like that, and those people are going to bring down the group. So what you want to do actually is ignore it and not acknowledge the hopelessness. And you might think to yourself, what are you talking about? Ignore it. So, for example, if John is talking about how he's been in numerous rehabs and he's failed and there's no support, and once he's done speaking, you actually don't acknowledge the statement. You move right on to the next question. For example, for others who have had a point of sobriety, what has been successful for them? You loop right back into why he caused the hopelessness. So when he poses the statement of hopelessness, you need to pose the statement of empowerment to counteract that so that others will feel empowered to answer, well, I was only sober for 3 days, but what worked for me was I relied on my mom, and then you'll get people talking, and then others will talk as well. So that will bring the hopelessness down and will bring the empowerment up. So when you have people that bring constant hopelessness, constant frustration, and constant nothing's ever going to work for me, you actually want to divert that and move it right into empowerment, because if you sit there and acknowledge that feeling, the whole group is going to start to feel hopeless, and everyone will sit there and just stare at each other and think, wow, maybe he's right. Maybe it is hopeless. I've been in 3 groups before. It's never worked for me. He's right. So instead of having that dynamic, you really want to switch it around and begin to empower them, because that's where you're going to see the change.
Lastly, there's someone that always feels victimized in a group setting, that everything someone says, they take it personally. So these are the people that are very sensitive, and they're going to appear flustered in the group. They may even get up and go to the bathroom several times during the group because it just becomes emotionally too much for them. So you need to remind these people that this is a free space, that everything everyone says is not personally attacking another person. They're just expressing their personal feelings. And you have to let them know that this is an open forum and they cannot internalize everything. So these people are best approachable when you pull them separately from a group. Do not confront these people in public, because they will absolutely deny it, and they will actually turn to be frustrated and angry with you. So you want to be able to pull them aside after a group and talk to them about it. Why are they feeling attacked? What about what everyone said made them feel that way? Those are really topics that you're going to touch on. So for group work, those are the 3 common people that you're going to see. You're going to see some other tough conversations in there as well. You're also going to see the person who tries to divert the group topic. You're going to have that person who doesn't want to be there, so they're going to try to divert the topic. If you're talking about coping skills, for example, they're going to try to be talking about triggers because they don't want to talk about coping skills. Or if you're talking about triggers, they're talking about the weather. There's always those types of people that are trying to divert the conversation. So you always have to bring those people back in, loop them back into why we're here, remind them of the target problem, remind them of the goals, and really work together for the betterment of the group. All right, everyone. So that's my overview for week 7. Like I said, it's really been a true pleasure and honor to be your professor this semester and watch you all grow clinically. We are very lucky to have you in this profession. This profession is not for everyone. So for those of you who are choosing this as a second career, I commend you. For those of you who are furthering yourself better, I commend you as well, because we need people like you who want to do better and want to inspire. So what I want you to think about this week is, what group for you would be too hard enough to felicitate? And I want you just to write that in your post, 1 to 2 sentences. Why would it be hard? It could be a drug and alcohol group, grief and loss group, a sex offender group, people who were molested, things like that. What type of group would be too difficult for you to felicitate, and why? I want you to start to think about those things, because you will encounter a lot of different populations, like I talk about in social work. So I want you to be able to acknowledge what population group-wise would be too difficult for you. All right, everyone, good luck moving forward, and I look forward to seeing you in the field.